Thank you. This is my first live product demo, so I'm gonna have Tube to push all the buttons so that if anything happens, I can just blame on him. Like I said, she said, my name's Ross. GridRival is the first fantasy gaming application, fantasy sports application built specifically for motorsports enthusiasts. So, is there any fantasy sports players in here? Football, baseball, basketball, a couple of you. So I've watched this space explode over the past 10 years. Everybody's probably heard the name FanDuel or DraftKings at some point. If you owned a television set and you turned it on in 2015, you probably saw their ads. And so the space has really blown up, and I grew up, I wasn't really interested in baseball and basketball and all those sports. I wanted to race cars. My parents weren't billionaires, so it didn't work out for me. But, so I went into business and I watched the space explode. I watched a bunch of friends who watch recorded sports and scream at their televisions, looking at their fantasy applications, and I thought, why is nobody doing this for motorsports? Huge market. Formula One, which is what our game is focused on right now, is a 400 million person audience globally. So the first question I had and everybody else had when I presented this idea to begin with is, why is nobody doing this? It's a massive market, huge opportunity. So my first thing, this is kind of like, I would call it our MVP. We launched it last year before the Formula One season started. We signed about 30,000 people in a couple weeks, and that's when I was like, okay, I think there's something here. Just quit my job full time about 2 months ago to go raise money and get it to the next stage. So kind of give a short demo of how it works. There's a lot here to cover in the brief time that we have, so I'm gonna go over some of the key elements. The way that our game works is that you pick 5 drivers. That's what we're gonna do right here. So I created a team called Team PDX. Again, this is only Formula One. This is a season-long fantasy game, so there's no money involved yet. That's kind of the final frontier for us, is the gambling, gaming side of this. So we're gonna go down here. So Tube is gonna create his own fantasy Formula One team. So we have, if you scroll back up at the top real quick, you can see our budget. So we have 109 million pounds to build our team of 5 drivers and 1 manufacturer. So why don't you pick, let's go with Kimi Räikkönen, 4 down. And what you're looking at here, this is their fluctuation of the element salary from last race to right now. And why that's important is each of these drivers and the constructor, when you sign them, you're going to sign them for up to 5 races. And if you sign one, let's say you sign this guy at 24 million, and when his contract's released, he's valued at 26. That arbitrage actually gets added to your balance right here. So as you build that up over the season, you can build a better team. So just go pick any 5 people. Räikkönen's a good choice. He's hot. So pick the length that you want to sign him for in that red box. Anywhere from 1 to 5 races. And then how about Fernando Alonso right here in the middle? Okay, and then I keep scrolling down. Just any 3 down there are good. That's not till the end. So the way the game works is every week, based off of the real results of the race in Formula One, the game automatically updates and assigns different point values for different events. Obviously position, finishing position, qualifying position, all sorts of different stuff. And then click over this tab right up here to constructor, and that's where you're gonna pick anyone that has a green plus sign. And then the last thing is your talent driver is an element that earns double the value during the race. So pick anyone that clicks sign contracts. And then so, so what happens from here is you can join leagues with friends. You automatically added the global leaderboards. There's about 11,000 people playing right now that you can compete against. So go ahead and click sign now. And then what you do is basically after every race, I'm going to, hold on, I'm going to take control real quick. So I'm going to look at my team. This is Team Ramrod, this is me. So at the end of every race, you can basically come to this scoreboard section, and it shows you a breakdown of all your team's points, how they scored. You can click into each of them individually, kind of see the breakdown, and then Within here, there's a bunch of different elements, like you can go to the timeline. So this shows the activity of basically every single thing that you've done for your team for the whole year. So you can see, like here we had Lance Stroll, we released him after 3 races, we made $1 million profit on him, and then you can click into each of these events and see how we scored. We have a whole entire data section too, where you can come and look at all sorts of different graphs, like how your team performed at all these different events. So that's kind of like that's the key elements of our game. So the future for us is, I don't know if everybody saw the big piece of legislation that was repealed about 4 weeks ago around sports betting. It was a really big deal in the United States. Last year there was $7.2 billion was spent on fantasy sports betting. None of that on motorsports because no one's really doing this yet. And there's $150 billion spent on illegal sports betting. So what is going to start happening now that this law is passed, and states, the government basically said states can now pass laws to allow this type of betting. So states still have to do that. It's going to take some time. But over time, a lot of that $150 billion is going to start coming through these platforms. And the future really for us is like in 4 years, I can create a GridRival sports book where we can literally have like peer-to-peer betting. Like me and Tubton can say, hey, I'll bet you, $100 that this guy finishes in this one position. So right now, because a lot of the laws around pool betting versus real betting, so pool betting, there has to be kind of like an element of skill, right? There's elements of skill here. You can't just place like a random bet, and that would be illegal technically right now. So that's kind of the product.
Awesome.
10 seconds to spare. Yep.
What do you think your next sports will be, and when do you think you'll add them?
So the next 2 sports will be added towards the end of kind of our next phase of growth. So right now I'm raising, I guess I call it Series Seed. There's a bunch of things we want to accomplish in that round, and if there's leftover money, the next 2 things we'll go into are MotoGP. So MotoGP is, like I said, globally, Formula 1's about 400 million. MotoGP is very similar in size. Next after that will be NASCAR, primarily because I'm a stateside company, and there's a lot of money in that business that is up for grabs. And then beyond that, World Rally, IndyCar, some of those other types of series. And then way beyond that, I mean, there's hundreds of support series and stuff like that in racing. Yeah?
What can you do to earn revenue without having these laws in place?
Yeah, so our first revenue model is going to be prior to going through all of the regulatory compliance to get this set up globally. Our first revenue model is going to be built kind of like a freemium model. And the way that the laws work is that if people pay, so we'll have contests based off of a single event that you can enter for free. But you'll be limited in how many you can join unless you have a premium subscription. And the premium subscription will come with all sorts of other stuff so that nobody can make any argument about they're just paying money to get access to the other contests. That's how some of the other, I'm in the midst of that with attorneys right now, like figuring out exactly how that model works. But that's my interim model, and my dream would be that model actually creates enough revenue that I don't have to go through all the legal compliance stuff right now. Yeah.
Will the early adopters be cash in once you are profitable and have revenue?
Cash, what do you mean by that? Like, will they be playing with cash games?
Right, so once you get to a point where you are actually betting with money, people that are doing it for fun or imaginary dollars, can they cash in their winnings?
Oh, like the people playing right now?
Yes.
No. No, definitely not. What was that?
You don't want to give me €3 million?
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
2 questions. One was, do you find most of your users right now are kind of EU-based?
Yeah.
Does that create a lot of interesting time zone?
Right. So, Formula One is I was just talking to this gentleman. Formula One is in the United States like kind of where soccer was like 20 years ago. It's not big here. It's huge everywhere else. the United Kingdom is kind of like the mecca of motorsports. So when we did our media buy, and we got those 30,000 users, we were exclusively targeting people in the UK, so that's where I'd say probably 80% of our user base is right now. But as we grow, it'll be everywhere.
Do you guys have like offices there or something? Or you just
No, I wish. I have an office, and me and my wife share an office in our house.
The other question was, if you're going to go monetize this, right, and take betting, I would assume that the security requirements will shoot through the roof, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of everything shoots through the roof when you want to be a casino.
Yeah.
Like literally everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why, you know, DraftKings is worth $1 billion. And someone was asking me earlier, I was saying, well, DraftKings' value proposition is that they exist as a place where you can give money to and bet on sports. Like that's their value proposition right now, because there's just not a lot of people that have entered this space. It's happened, but anyways, it's not a cakewalk to go through that stuff.
All right, thank you very much, Ross.